On March 22nd, 2 days from now, we have Nyepi, the Balinese holiday, and the same day, the start of Ramadan for Muslims. Let's talk about it. Stay tuned for details. Selamat sore. Welcome to the latest news from Bali in Indonesia. This is March 20th, 2023, and my name is Bruce. And the weather, well, it's already rained today, so I can talk about the weather. We had some rain. Right now it is 32.5 degrees Celsius. It is hot, and the humidity 67%. Wind speed is very calm, 7.4 kilometers per hour. And as I said, we already had some rain today, and it's looking a little better, but overcast, not the best of days, but not too bad either. So let's get started. I want to make this short. We have the two holidays coming up on Wednesday. This is Monday. And how is that going to work? Muslims in Bali may go to the mosque for Tarawih during Nyepi as long as they walk. This year's Nyepi Day coincides with the first night of Ramadan, and Muslims are welcome to carry out the Tarawih prayers during Nyepi on foot and not in groups. Now, I saw another report that said that you were supposed to stay at home, but this one says you're allowed to go out to the mosque. So some different things, and well, we'll take this one here. This is in Dapur, Bali. This decision is a result of a joint appeal agreement which was sparked on Monday, the 13th, a week ago. Manggala Utama Pasikian Pecalang MDA Bali Imade Mudra explained that in a joint call it was agreed upon by several elements, including Traditional Village Council and the Indonesia Ulema Council for Bali Province. It was decided that prayers would be permitted on Nyepi. According to Pak Mudra, carry out the Tarawih prayers at the nearest mosque or prayer room on foot, not in groups, not using a sound system, and using limited lighting. Pak Mudra hopes that these provisions can be understood both for Muslims and Pecalang, who will be on duty near Nyepi to make sure nobody is out wandering around. Hopefully, he said, this can be translated by fellow Pecalang so as not to cause turmoil because of the Tarawih prayers coinciding with Nyepi. Pak Mudra said that in areas with heterogeneous populations, that is Muslims and Hindus living in the same area, such as in Denpasar, usually the location of mosque or prayer rooms is in the area of traditional villages or banjars. And for this reason, Muslims who want to pray at the mosque or prayer room need to communicate first with the Pecalang. Hopefully, he said, this doesn't invite offense between us and people who carry out religious activities without causing conflict. This is what we have to anticipate. So what I'm going to do in this video is just a brief summary of Ramadan and Nyepi for people that don't know about either one or both of those. Let's start with Ramadan. Ramadan is an annual month-long observance in the Islamic calendar during which Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset. This period is considered to be one of the holiest times of the year for Muslims, and it is marked by various rituals and practices that are designed to promote spiritual growth and a connection with God. Ramadan is considered one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It's a time of spiritual reflection, self-improvement, and increased devotion and worship. Ramadan teaches Muslims to practice self-discipline, self-control, sacrifice, and empathy for those who are less fortunate, thus encouraging actions of generosity and compulsory charity. Muslims also believe that fasting instills compassion for the food insecure poor. And so when you're fasting, it's supposed to help you develop compassion for people that have a lot less because you realize what it's like to go without food. The month of Ramadan is believed to be the time when the first verses of the Quran, the holy book of Islam, were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. According to Islamic tradition, the revelation of the Quran began during the month of Ramadan in the year 610 CE, when the Prophet Muhammad was meditating in a cave on Mount Hira near Mecca. Prior to becoming a messenger of God, Muhammad used to go up to Hira mountain and he would go into a cave and he would meditate. In 610, when he was 40 years old, he went to the same mountaintop to meditate. Several weeks into his retreat, he experienced an angelic form appearing before him, commanding him to read. He replied he didn't know how to read. The angelic force squeezed him tight and repeated the command to read. This continued 3 times, after which the first 5 verses of the Holy Quran were revealed to Muhammad. Read in the name of your Lord, who created humans from a piece of flesh. Read, for your Lord is most generous, who taught humans with the pen, who taught humans what they do not know. This incident marked the beginning of Islam, the revelation of the Quran, and the first prophetic mission of the Prophet Muhammad. In 624, when Muslims migrated to Medina to escape persecution, the month of Ramadan was declared holy by virtue of the start of the mission of the Prophet and the revelation of the Quran. Fasting was instituted in this month as one of the 5 pillars of Islam, as a way for believers to show their thanks to God and reflect on the teachings of the Quran and its importance to believers. The revelations continued for 23 years until the Prophet's death in 632 CE, and the entire Quran was completed by that time. During the month of Ramadan, Muslims are required to fast from dawn until sunset, refrain from food, drink, and other physical needs and pleasures. During this time, when you're fasting, you're supposed to reflect, meditate. People do carry on work if they have jobs. And here in my home, my wife spends most of the day cooking or taking cat naps, because later on at sunset, it's time to eat. We'll get to that in a second. Fasting is considered to be a form of self-discipline and self-control, and it's supposed to help Muslims be able to focus on their spiritual goals. The month of Ramadan is also a time of communal gathering, with Muslims coming together for iftar. That's the breaking of the fast at sunset, and for Tarawih, that's the special night prayers performed during Ramadan. The Tarawih, the night prayers, are not mandatory. Muslims wake up very, very early in the morning. Actually, it's still night. I fasted for, I think, about 10 years, and we would get up very early in the morning. I don't fast anymore because of neurological conditions. But we would get up way before dawn, and here in Indonesia, a lot of television stuff going on, and people are joking and laughing, and they're talking about fasting, and there's skits going on TV. It's a time everybody's you get the kids out of bed, and everybody has a meal, and then we go back to bed until it was time to get up to go to work or school. This morning meal is usually pretty big because you're not going to eat again for, well, close to 12 hours. And so you want to get food and liquid into your system in order to be ready for the fast. And in the morning, when it's time to get up for your pre-dawn meal, here in our neighborhood, kids go around banging on drums. Say, wake up, it's time to eat. And well, in other places they have horns, they have sirens. There's all sorts of different ways depending on what country that you live in. But the family gets together, they have the food, as I said, and then they may go back to bed and they get up and they continue on with their day. Fasting is mandatory for all adult Muslims. However, there are exceptions for the sick, the elderly, or people that are traveling. Pregnant nursing women are also exempt, as are women who are having their menstrual period. And children who have not reached puberty are not expected to fast as well. People that are unable to fast for one reason or another are expected to make up their missed days at a later time. Some children like to go along with their parents or their older siblings, and so they start a fast. My kids used to do this, and they fast until they get hungry, and they end the fast. It's getting prepared for becoming an adult and having to fast as a mandatory part of being a Muslim. Finally, Ramadan is a time for charity and giving. Muslims are expected to engage in acts of kindness and generosity, such as giving to those in need, volunteering at local charities. This is a way to demonstrate compassion and to reflect on the teachings of Islam in daily life. How does Ramadan work here in Bali? Well, Bali is a tourist island, and it is predominantly Hindu, of course, and so food and alcohol are still being consumed. Restaurants are open, shops are open. Muslims aren't allowed to eat, they still have to fast. But life goes on here. What can you do as a non-Muslim? Well, One of the things you can do is not smoke or eat or drink in front of your friends. Now, some people don't mind that. When I was fasting, I didn't care if people smoked, ate, drank around me. It didn't make any difference. The whole idea of fasting for me was the self-control, the self-discipline, and so I didn't mind. I know some Muslims that get very upset when people eat or drink around them or smoke, and, well, each to their own. But generally, it's considered to be good manners not to eat or drink or smoke around your Muslim friends, especially if you're visiting them in their household. After 30 days of fasting, we have Lebaran or Eid al-Fitr, and that is the end, and lots of fun, and I'll be doing a video on that when that comes up in another month. Okay, let's talk about Nyepi. So Nyepi is going to happen on the same day this year. Not usual that they're both on the same day, but this year they are. Nyepi is known as the Balinese Day of Silence, and it's a significant cultural and religious holiday that's observed here in Bali, but also in some other parts of Indonesia where you have Hindus. On Nyepi, people observe a day of complete silence, fasting for some people, and introspection. All activities are prohibited, including entertainment, work, and travel. So the main restrictions: no lighting fires, lights have to be kept low. Some people will put curtains up over the windows so that you can't see if they have lights on inside. There's no working, there's no entertainment. TV is shut down here in Bali, as well as the data. Now, according to reports I saw, that there's going to be fiber optic is going to be available, but if you're using your handphone for data, that's not going to work. So the purpose of Nyepi Day is to cleanse the soul and start the new year with a clear mind and a pure heart. Balinese people believe that by observing silence, they can deceive evil spirits into thinking the island is uninhabited, and therefore the spirits will leave Bali. And of course we have Ogo Ogo, right? The fantastic creatures that are created, and there have already been parades. The Ogo Ogo parades have already been happening around the island. I'm expecting that there will be Ogo Ogo parades tomorrow, which is traditional, the day before Nyepi, that there'll be some in Singaraja, and we will be there watching those, and hopefully I will get a video of the ones that are going on here. In preparation for Nyepi Day, Balinese people perform a ritual called Malasti. In Malasti, they carry sacred objects from the temple to the sea to purify them. And so you have these big parades of people, and that has been going on throughout the week, and it happened just by the temple today. What are the effects? The streets are empty. There's no lights at night. Wow, you can see all the stars in the sky. It's great. There's no noise. Well, there's roosters. If the roosters bother you, you can't keep the roosters quiet. You may see, if you're looking out your window, you may see the pechalang, the traditional security guys. They patrol the streets to make sure that people are not out. And so Nyepi is a Hindu holiday, but non-Hindu residents are expected to abide by this, with a few exceptions, the one being that I just mentioned. And also, if there's an emergency and you need to go to the hospital, you will be stopped, but you explain that there's an emergency, you're on your way to the hospital, and women who are about to give birth. And of course, the airport is closed. One of the things I love about Nyepi, where else in the world do you close the airport for a religious holiday? It is great. Now, what can you do as a foreigner? Well, you can obey the rules. One, don't leave. Now, we're hoping with all of the craziness that's been going on here with foreigners behaving badly, and there was another viral video out today of a guy screaming at people doing Malasti. Malasti is a special ceremony that is done right before Nyepi, and other times as well, but right before Nyepi. And so there are big processions on the street. This guy apparently, I don't know the whole story, but it's going viral already, and boy, it has Balinese really upset because he's screaming at people in a Malasti ceremony, and apparently he was upset that he had to stop and wait. And so stay at home, do not go out, do not test things. So Nyepi is a unique holiday that showcases the rich cultural and religious diversity of Bali. It's time for self-reflection and spiritual renewal, reminding people to slow down and appreciate the simple things in life. Nyepi is a holiday that not only rejuvenates the mind of Bali, but also celebrates the Balinese people's strong sense of community and tradition. And so, I hope you appreciate it as well. And that's it for today. Thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.